Mama what?
Cheese.
Cheese. What you got? You got dinosaur? Dinosaur.
Shell.
I love you.
I will.
You my apple.
Apple.
Let me kiss.
Oh.
Mwah.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you.
But I love you.
Love you.
But I love you.
Love you.
What would you do if you survived something horrific, only to find yourself facing it again? Imagine it for a moment, being shot at point-blank range, a bullet piercing your skull. Yet somehow, against all odds, you walk away. You live. You breathe. You survive. Now imagine that you don't run. You don't flee. You don't protect yourself from the very man who tried to end your life. Instead, you go back. You walk right back into his arms, convinced that this time will be different. That the person who tried to take everything from you, the one who left you bleeding, can change. This isn't just a story of survival. It's about choices. The kind of choices that cost lives. Choices that will haunt you forever. The truth behind the tragic death of Briquethia Pruitt is far darker than you could imagine. A story of resilience, love, and ultimately betrayal. It's a story that will make you question everything you think you know about survival, trust, and the cycles of violence we often fail to break. How did she get here? How did she go from surviving the unthinkable to walking right back into danger? What went wrong? What blinded her to the reality of the man she thought she loved? What were the signs she missed, or maybe chose to ignore? By the end of this journey, you'll be asking yourself some tough questions. Were her actions simply a cry for help? Or was it something deeper, something much more tragic that we, as outsiders, fail to understand? Stay with me as we peel back the layers of this heartbreaking case. Each moment will draw you deeper into her life. By the time we're done, you might just find yourself thinking about second chances and the consequences of giving them. This is City Crime Tales, where we uncover the darkest corners of true crime. Before we go any further into Briquethia's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss a single moment of what comes next. Now let's dive deep into what led to that fateful night. What happened to Briquethia, a woman who tried to believe in love, in second chances, but ultimately lost everything? Stay tuned. The truth might surprise you. Briquethia wasn't just a mother. She wasn't just a sister. She wasn't just someone living in the city of Cleveland. Briquethia was something more. Something rare. She was a force of nature, someone who didn't just look out for herself. She looked out for everyone. In her neighborhood, they called her the heart of the block. But being the heart of a community isn't easy. It means giving up what you have, often to your own detriment, just to help others. It means sacrificing your time, your resources, and sometimes your own happiness for the well-being of the people around you. Briquethia didn't come from wealth. She didn't have an easy life. She was raising 5 kids on her own, doing whatever it took to make sure they were fed, clothed, and loved. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, she still found the energy to give back to others. Her community often turned to her for help. And when they did, she was there. She didn't just write a check or hand over a bag of food. No, Briquethia organized food drives right from her own kitchen. No fanfare, no applause, just pure, genuine care for the people who needed it most. It's the small things that define a person, right? Her sister Nicole recalls a time when Briquethia spent her last $20, money she could have used for herself or for her kids, to drive an elderly neighbor to dialysis. She didn't think twice. That was the kind of person she was. But here's the question. How does someone with such a big heart, someone who was willing to give her last dime for others, end up in a deadly situation with a man who would ultimately take her life? What happened to the kind-hearted woman who saw the best in everyone? Was it simply bad luck that brought her into the orbit of someone who would become her worst nightmare? Or was there something deeper, something we can all learn from her story? She believed in second chances. She trusted people, sometimes too much. But how did that belief in others, in forgiving and loving, turn into the fatal mistake that led to her tragic end? In the next chapter, we'll explore the man who changed her life, and how one moment of vulnerability led Brikithia into the arms of a man who would ultimately betray her. Stay with me. It's about to get darker. It all started with an app. In the middle of a global pandemic, a time when loneliness and isolation became common struggles for so many, Brikithia found herself scrolling through a dating app, Tag. It was an online space where people went to find companionship, whether for a quick chat or something more serious. It wasn't unlike many others who found themselves longing for connection in a time of social distancing. She didn't know it at the time, but this app would bring Corey Sanders into her life. It wasn't a simple swipe right or left. This wasn't a game. This wasn't about a casual fling. No, this felt different. Corey's messages started innocent enough, just small talk. Maybe it was a distraction from the stress and fear of the world around her. Maybe it was a chance for Brikithia to feel a little less alone in the world. And at first it was easy. Light-hearted conversations, compliments here and there. He seemed normal enough. He seemed kind. But something changed fast. What started as a few innocent exchanges soon turned into late-night conversations, shared stories, and promises of a future. There was something in the way Corey spoke. He was charming. He seemed to understand her, really understand her. He listened, he cared, and before long he was telling her everything she wanted to hear. And within just weeks, Brikithia made the decision to invite him into her home. Think about that for a moment. Weeks. A complete stranger from an app, and just like that, he was living under her roof, around her children, in her life. Her entire world, everything she had worked to build, her home, her family, was suddenly turned upside down. But to her it seemed like a fair trade. He wasn't just some random guy. To her, Corey was everything she had been waiting for. He was kind, attentive, and incredibly charming. He made her feel special. He made her believe that maybe, just maybe, he was the man who could be the partner she deserved. But how did she go from being a strong, independent woman to welcoming a complete stranger into her life so quickly? What was it about Corey that made her trust him so much? Did she see something in him that no one else saw? Or maybe, just maybe, she saw something in herself, something she had been missing in the chaos of her own life, and the love she craved, that led her to believe in him? For all her kindness and care for others, Brikithia was still vulnerable. She had spent so much of her life giving, to her children, to her community, to anyone in need. But perhaps she never gave herself enough time to truly protect herself. Could this vulnerability have clouded her judgment, especially when it came to someone like Corey who seemed to see her? Think about how fast it all happened. He was in her home, blending into her life, living with her kids, becoming part of her family's day-to-day routine, all in a matter of weeks. She had a lot of people around her who could have warned her, her family, her friends, but they didn't get the chance. What caused her to ignore those red flags? Was it the loneliness of the pandemic? Was it the overwhelming weight of trying to balance everything on her own? Or was it the simple fact that she wanted to believe in something good, in something real? Whatever it was, one thing became clear. Brikithia trusted him. She believed his words. She let him into her life, her home, her heart. And at that moment, it seemed like everything was falling into place. But how quickly things would change. She was drawn to him. She believed in second chances, in the idea that love could fix things. But this time that belief would cost her dearly. Because sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who end up betraying us the hardest. What was Corey hiding? What did he know that Brikithia didn't? Was he the man he claimed to be, or was he something much darker? Stay with me as we begin to unravel who Corey Sanders really was, and how he turned Brikithia's world into a nightmare. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. From the beginning, Nassie, Brikithia's daughter, had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. She wasn't blind to the signs. She saw it all, the subtle shifts, the tension building between her mother and Corey. He wasn't the man he pretended to be, but her mother couldn't see it. She wanted to believe in the good, in the second chance she so desperately craved. But Nassie? She was starting to notice things her mother couldn't. She saw how Corey's mood shifted, how his temper flared over the smallest things. She saw how Brikithia tried to stay calm, tried to smooth things over to make everything okay. That was Brikithia's nature. She wanted to believe the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. But for Nassie, she saw the signs of danger. And yet, no one was ready for what came next. Then came the night that changed everything. In March 2019, a night that Brikithia would never forget, things took a dark turn. What was once a relationship that seemed filled with hope, filled with possibility, suddenly turned into a nightmare. In an instant, Corey's violent side emerged, and the man who had once promised safety and care now held a gun. Right at Brikithia's head. Can you even imagine that kind of fear? One moment, everything feels normal. You're sitting there living your life, trusting the person you've invited into your home, into your children's lives. And the next you're staring down the barrel of a gun. For a moment there was no escape, no second chances. It was just a moment frozen in time where Brikithia's life hung by a thread. But somehow she survived. The bullet didn't find its mark, but that doesn't mean she walked away unscathed. Her life had already been shattered in ways that couldn't be repaired by any amount of physical recovery. But here's where the story becomes even harder to understand. Despite everything, the gunshot, the fear, the near-death experience, Brikithia didn't leave. She didn't walk away from Corey. What? She could have left. She could have walked away and protected herself and her kids. But she didn't. Brikithia still believed in second chances. She believed in the idea that people could change, that they could be better if given the opportunity. It wasn't that she didn't see the danger. It's that she wanted to believe in him so badly. But was it a second chance, or was it something else entirely? Was it love? Or was it the destructive force of trauma bonding, where she found herself trapped in a cycle of abuse she couldn't escape from, no matter how hard she tried? What was it about Corey that made Brikithia go back? What kept her coming back for more when she should have run far, far away? Was it love? Or was it something darker, something psychological that made her believe she had to stay? Love is a powerful force. But sometimes it's not the love we need, it's the love we think we deserve. And in Brikithia's case, that belief may have led her back into a situation far more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. What did she see in Corey that blinded her to the truth? How could someone who had survived a near-death experience at his hands, who had experienced such terror and violence, go back into the very arms of the person who tried to kill her? It's a question that so many victims of abuse wrestle with every single day. Why do we go back to people who hurt us? And in Brikithia's case, the answer is complicated. It's layered. And sadly, it's too common. The story isn't over. In fact, this is just the beginning. The truth of what would unfold next is even more chilling, even more heartbreaking. And this time, there would be no escaping what Corey had planned. Stay with me as we take a deeper look at how a relationship built on lies and violence spiraled into a tragedy that could have been prevented. The breaking point came when Brikithia discovered the truth about Corey. They had been planning a getaway, a break from the chaos, a chance to relax and reconnect. For Brikithia, it was supposed to be a sweet, romantic escape. Just her and Corey trying to find a moment of peace in a whirlwind life. But what she found when they arrived at the hotel wasn't a romantic surprise. No, it was far darker than that. It was a wife, not an ex-wife, not someone from his past. No, this was his current wife standing there, her eyes filled with fury. Imagine the shock of that moment. One moment, Brikithia had been smiling, maybe excited about the night ahead. And the next, she was confronted with the unbelievable truth, a truth she had never expected to face. There in front of her stood a woman, screaming at her, accusing her of being nothing more than another side piece in Corey's tangled life. The air was thick with betrayal, humiliation. A woman who had opened her heart to someone she thought was real, someone she trusted, now being told that everything she believed in had been a lie. Can you imagine the flood of emotions? The shame, the anger, the confusion? But even in that chaos, Brikithia did something remarkable. She stayed calm. She didn't lash out. She didn't yell. She didn't fight back. Brikithia's response was simple. She turned to Corey and asked him, told him, to take her home. She wasn't angry, she wasn't violent. She was hurt, deeply hurt, but she still tried to maintain her grace. That's the kind of woman she was. Even when she was humiliated in the worst way possible, she stayed composed. But here's the thing, even in that calm, something inside her changed. There was no going back. And for Corey, that calm was the last straw. You see, when Corey was exposed, when everything came crashing down around him, something inside him snapped. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle the humiliation of being found out, being caught. The fragile control he had over Brikithia, over the situation, was slipping away. And for someone like Corey, that wasn't an option. So what did he do? He didn't apologize. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He didn't try to make things right. No. Corey did something far worse. He plotted. He went to his son's house to get a gun. The same man who had shot at Brikithia before, who had nearly taken her life, was now preparing to do it again. This time, however, there would be no missed shot. No close call. This time he was going to finish what he had started. What could drive a man to this point? What turned the humiliation of being exposed into a cold, calculated decision to kill the woman who had already survived his violent attack once before? Was it the loss of control? The fear that he had been uncovered as the monster he truly was? Or was it something deeper, something psychologically sinister? How could a man go from being exposed for his lies and betrayal to planning murder? Was his ego so fragile that the only way to reclaim power was to take her life? What does it say about someone who would go to such lengths, knowing he had already shot her once and now, armed and ready, he was determined to finish what he had started? These are the questions that haunt this story. And as we move forward, we'll see how Brikithia, despite everything, still clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, Corey would change. But change was never in the cards. What was left for her now that the mask had come off? Was there any way to escape the violence that was coming for her? Stay with me, because things are about to take a turn that no one could have predicted. After the explosive confrontation at the hotel, when Corey dropped Brikithia and her daughter Nassie back at their home, Brikithia thought she was safe. In her mind, the nightmare was over. She had asked Corey to leave and he had, at least for the moment. But little did she know, Corey was far from done. He hadn't just been humiliated, he had been angry and he wasn't going to let it go. Later that night, when Brikithia was out, likely trying to clear her mind or talk to a friend, Corey broke into the house. The very home that Brikithia believed was her safe place, the place where she had raised her children, was now being violated once again. Nassie, only a child, was the only one there. She heard a noise, something out of place. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she rushed to see what was happening, only to find herself witnessing her worst nightmare. What happened next was not just a heated argument. This was not a petty fight between lovers. No, this was violent. This was Corey fighting to regain control. This was a man who had already tried to kill Brikithia once, and now, with no one else around to stop him, he was going to finish what he started. And when they reached the living room, the violence took a chilling turn. Corey pulled out the gun again. This wasn't a warning shot. No, this was intent to kill. He pointed it at Brikithia's head, and in that moment, Brikithia, who had already survived once, faced the barrel of death for the second time. But somehow, through the pain, through the blood, through the sheer terror of the situation, Brikithia jerked her head just as Corey pulled the trigger. The bullet missed, just inches away from ending her life. It wasn't luck, though. It wasn't fate. It was Brikithia's will to survive that made her move. But that moment could have easily been her last. The bullet went through her hair, through the couch, and into the wall behind her. She was lucky, but not without consequence. The violence didn't stop there. But Corey wasn't finished. No, he was just getting started. With the gun empty, he had no more bullets to fire, but that didn't stop him. He didn't give up. Instead, he went looking for something else, something to hold on to. But when he couldn't find his keys, his phone, or any of his belongings, the chaos didn't stop. Nassie, who had seen it all, had the courage to lie. She told Corey that the police were already on their way. She had to act fast. She couldn't allow him to get away again, to hurt her mother again. And when he realized that he couldn't get what he wanted, when he couldn't finish what he had come there to do, Corey did what he always did when things didn't go his way. He fled. He ran. But for Brikeithia, surviving that night didn't mean safety. It didn't mean peace. It didn't mean escape. No, surviving the night was only the beginning of the nightmare. Corey had already shown her exactly who he was. A man who could come into her life, lie, deceive, and then nearly take it all away. Yet, despite the near-death experience, Brikeithia didn't leave him. What? Why didn't she leave him when she had the chance? What was it that kept her coming back? Was it love? Was it the belief that people could change? Or was it something darker, something much harder to face? The psychological hold he had on her? Even after the violence, after being shot at and nearly killed, she still believed in him. She still trusted him. She still thought that maybe, just maybe, he could be the man she hoped he was, the man she wanted him to be. But was that trust misplaced? Was the love she gave him truly love, or was it something far more dangerous? A bonding so powerful that it kept her trapped in a cycle she couldn't escape from, even when her life was at stake. How many chances should a person give to someone who has already tried to kill them once? How many red flags need to be raised before a person can finally see the truth? The system failed her. Her friends, her family, the world, it all failed to protect her from the man she let back into her life. But perhaps, in the end, the greatest failure came from within. She couldn't protect herself. She couldn't see the danger that was so clear to everyone else. In the next chapter of this story, we'll see how this deadly pattern would unfold. What's next for Brikeithia? What is left for someone who has already faced death and walked away, only to return to the person who nearly ended their life? Stay with us because we are only beginning to uncover the truth. A few months later, after serving his short sentence, Corey Sanders was back on the streets. By October 2022, he was free, released. But not once did he show any sign of remorse for what he had done to Brikeithia. He wasn't sorry. Not even a little. And tragically, Brikeithia took him back. Despite everything that had happened, despite the gunshots, the threats, the lies, and the violence, she still believed that he could change. She still held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. He promised her it would be. But by February 2023, just a few months after his release, Corey proved that he would never change. He killed her. Brikeithia's body was found in a car, alone, lifeless. A tragic end to a life that should have been filled with so much more. What went wrong? How does a woman who survived a gunshot to the head, who had already been through hell, end up back in the arms of the man who wanted to finish what he started? This case is not just about a murder. It's about so much more than that. It's about domestic violence, about the cycle of abuse that keeps victims trapped. It's about trauma bonding, the psychological grip that keeps someone coming back even when their life is on the line. And most importantly, it's about the failure of the justice system, which didn't protect Brikethia when it had the chance. Brikethia's family didn't give up on her. They fought for her, they warned her, but they couldn't stop what was already in motion. They couldn't protect her from the man she kept believing in. So, what lessons can we take from this story? How do we protect the people we love, the people we care about, from falling into these dangerous patterns, especially when they can't see the danger themselves? As we reflect on Brikethia's life, let's remember this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Don't make the same mistake she did. Don't ignore the signs, because sometimes it's too late. Thank you for joining us on City Crime Tales. If this story made you think twice, if it hit home and made you reflect on someone you know, please share it. Share Brikethia's story with your friends, with your family. We need to raise awareness so that her story isn't just another tragedy, but a call for change. The more we talk about these issues, the more lives we can save. We need to understand that this isn't just something that happens to other people, it's happening every day in homes just like ours. Domestic violence is real and it's time to face it head on. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories. Stay vigilant. Stay informed. You never know what's lurking right in front of you, and the more we know, the better we can protect ourselves and those we love. Stay safe. Stay aware.